In my personal opinion, the best type of manga is one that not only teaches you a new subject, but one that leaves you wanting to partake in whatever it was that you were reading. And that is pretty much the type of manga that we are going to cover today. Manga that makes you smarter, but really that teaches you new skills and that really is just all in all informative. That makes you feel like you're being productive when you read it. So we're actually going to be covering a ton of different categories or subjects. So if you want to go ahead and skip to whatever interests you, you can check the description and I have some timestamps. But if not anything, please go to the very last recommendation, because that's honestly the only reason why I even wanted to do this video was for that specific manga, because that manga is honestly amazing and it's the one manga that actually I felt really changed my life and impacted my life in a really big way. It's informative. It's the king of this type of manga, and honestly I think it should be required reading in schools everywhere. Like that's how much I love it and I think is important. You know, some of this stuff is in print, some of it is out of print, some of it is only available digitally. I will make note of that as I go through these. All right, without further ado, let's get into this. So I won't be going into the synopsis or plots of these titles here. Just know that they're all pretty good. My suggestion is check whatever sounds interesting to you, whatever seems fun to learn about. All right, now let's get into the video. We could do a whole video just on sports alone. So what really I'm going to do in this situation is stick to stuff that is more technical than it is physical, because I feel like those type of sports are, they lend themselves more to info dumps and more techniques to learn through text. And a prime example is Robot Laserbeam, which is a manga about golf. I wouldn't call myself a golfer, but I do go to the range and, you know, I do get into trying to improve my technique a lot. And when it comes to reading Robot Laserbeam, it always gives me the feeling of wanting to go out and improve my technique. And like, if you're not into golf, it's gonna make you into golf. A subgenre that is more related to sports is fighting, and once again, there's a lot of fighting manga out there, specifically boxing, and I grew up boxing, and I can tell you, like, I'm not a pro or anything, but I can tell you that a lot of the boxing manga is not really realistic, and a lot of them, they don't really teach you or go into techniques a lot. And it's more because, you know, boxing, it's very technique based, but not in the way, say, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, which is what I'm gonna be covering in this category specifically. Manga that goes into mixed martial arts and goes into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And there's actually a couple, both of these I'm actually very new to, but I can confirm that these hit the mark when it comes to teaching you stuff. So one of them is called Tough, and this one starts off very like martial artsy, but in the later chapters it starts to get into like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, how to do submissions, which, you know, I'm not a pro or anything, but I can tell you that it actually does teach you submissions, which is pretty awesome. And another MMA one that I got recommended to me by someone on Instagram, I'm gonna leave their screen name on here, shouts out, is All-Rounder Megumi, and this one is hailed as extremely realistic. And once again, I can tell you that it is extremely realistic. It's kind of like Running with the Wind, if any of you have seen that anime, but with MMA, which is awesome. And once again, they also are really detailed with, you know, teaching you kicks and the styles and all. Like, it's really awesome. But yeah, if you're looking for something that's fighting related and that you can walk away feeling like you learned more about the sports, learned more about different moves, these I would 100% go with. So what about strategic tabletop games? So there's actually a lot of manga that like deals with like shogi and stuff, but most of it isn't translated in English, mostly because it's like nobody's really interested in them. One of them that we luckily got is a freaking awesome one, and it is actually one of the very first manga that I ever read. It's actually the first manga that I read, honestly, and it is Hikaru no Go. What can I say? That I'm so happy that this was my very first manga that I read, because it really left an awesome impression that you could learn something new and interesting with manga. That always just left a huge impression on me, and it's probably why I really like these type of manga. And man, I don't know anybody that read this and didn't have the urge to want to go out there and play Go, which is what this manga is about. It's like a different style of like chess and checkers, but it's its own beast. You know, in between the chapters, it'll kind of run down different little things about Go, which that's always a great hallmark of this type of manga, is lots of text on the footnotes and a lot of informative pages in between the chapters that just kind of run down terms and, you know, different fundamentals, which is awesome. Hikaru no Go, I highly recommend this one. All right, now let's get into racing. Now, as far as I'm aware, there's not a lot of racing stuff out there. These are the only two that I know of, but these are fantastic and they definitely deserve to be on this video, on this list. And one of them is Initial D. There is like a lot of like ridiculous stuff in this, and it's, you know, not realistic in a lot of the things, but it'll definitely teach you about different car models, and a lot of the physics seems to be pretty legit. You know, like it'll say like, oh, the engine is in the front of this car, so the weight distribution is going to be different, so hitting this corner is going to be like, most of that stuff is pretty realistic. You know, this doesn't get too technical, but nonetheless, it definitely deserves to be on this list because, like I said, it likely is going to make you get into cars. Like, I literally knew nothing about cars before Initial D, but now I'm like pretty into cars. And I've gone racing on mountains and stuff. Well, they're not races, they're called chases, which is just playing keep up. But yeah, there are literally like communities of mountain road drivers and stuff, and a lot of them are Initial D fans. Okay, so this next one is also about racing, but it is about motorcycles. It is called Toppu GP. So Toppu GP is by the mangaka of Oh My Goddess, and I'm not surprised that he made a motorcycle manga because in Oh My Goddess, the main character is a motorcycle mechanic, and very often there's a lot of times where he is just talking about motorcycle engine and motorcycle engine parts. In my mind, I was like, there's no way this guy is not into motorcycles, and lo and behold, he came out with this racing motorcycle one, and honestly, it's admittedly kind of weak. I haven't gotten far in it, but I have faith that he's really going to deliver in regards to being informative. I mean, so far it's going into racing on the track specifically, which, you know, does involve a lot of technique. It's very interesting, and, you know, like I said, I do like this mangaka and I do appreciate his knowledge of motorcycles, so for sure I'm going to put this on here. Okay, so now let's get into medicine. Team Medical Dragon. This one is fucking awesome. Like, it is so good. Probably one of the more well executed ones on this list in regards to like teaching you about body parts and different illnesses and parlaying it into the plot, and it uses it in the way to develop characters and stuff. It's really well executed, and it goes over a ton of stuff regarding the medical field, like the way medical technology is, the issues in the medical industry, all sorts of stuff. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. Cells at Work I haven't really gotten too super into, but regarding the immune system, it is a very unique manga, and it's probably one of the more well-known like informative mangas. It's extremely interesting. All right, now let's get into food. One of my personal favorites is Silver Spoon because it not only really goes into cooking, but goes into agriculture and the way things are prepared, you know, like farming and stuff. It's extremely informative with that. And then you got stuff like Food Wars and Iron Walk Jan, which are very similar in nature. A lot of competitive cooking. They're extremely informative. They tell you how a dish is prepared. They do it in such a way that is kind of like moving the plot forward and stuff. It's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend both of those. But yeah, I mean, with food, there's a ton of subgenres. There's even like food competition stuff. But yeah, these will make you want to go cook. And I always thought that would be a cool like YouTube page or a TikTok page of somebody cooking dishes from anime and manga. That would be sick. Okay, so this next one is less a hobby per se, but it is something that will make you feel like you're exercising your brain, and it makes you feel like you're being productive and sharpening your mind. And it is the mystery genre. And there's really only two that I have personally kind of delved into, which are Detective Conan and Kindaichi Case Files. Both of them are fantastic. I mean, Detective Conan, I've only would watch the anime when I was younger, but every time I would watch it, it felt like I was being productive. Like I wasn't really wasting my time because it was just so much fun trying to figure out, you know, who the culprit is. These are really typically episodic. You're trying to constantly figure stuff out, and it really does feel like you're exercising your brain. And Kindaichi Case Files is also the same way. It also involves, you know, like a genius case solver. When it comes to these manga, you really don't care if they're like OP and super smart. What you're trying to really do is see how they figure things out and the way things unravel, which I always really loved about Detective Conan, and specifically also with Kindaichi Case Files. You know, like I said, these aren't really like skills you learn per se, but I feel like I had to throw these on here because they feel like they make you smarter. Do they actually make you smarter? I don't know. I don't know. I sure hope so. Okay, let's get into music, which is kind of an interesting category specifically for manga because you can't hear anything. As far as I'm aware, a lot of the music manga out there doesn't really go into like music theory. As far as I'm aware, if there is, I just haven't really found it. But one that I could really vouch for specifically is Nodame Cantabile, which, you know, doesn't really go into music theory a lot, but it really goes into a lot of classical pieces, and it's very informative in that way where you learn about specific pieces, the type of moods, and even the history behind a lot of those pieces. What was the motivation behind the composer for composing that piece? It also goes into the professional musician world as in regards to like orchestras, which is really, really awesome to see. It goes into like the piano and certain instruments, especially very heavy on conducting, which is one of the main characters in this. Specifically, the love interest in this is a conductor, and it really goes into how conducting goes down, and it's very, very interesting. I highly recommend this. Like I said, it's not really like goes into like music theory, but it'll make you want to go out there and pick up a instrument. I mean, I already play piano, but this made me want to go explore different pieces, and it got me practicing piano again. It's fantastic. I definitely recommend it. All right, now let's get into some art. We all know the big one, definitely one of the most well executed ones on this list, and it is Blue Period, baby. This one is fantastic. It goes into color theory, the history of certain pieces. It's fantastic, and like I've heard about this impacting so many different people's lives, specifically because, you know, a big element of it is following your passion, which is also kind of an element of this next one that also is regarding art. It's called Arte, and this one is more of a historical one. It's set in the Renaissance time, following a female protagonist during a time where females aren't known to be artists. So it's very interesting in that way where here you have this female artist trying to make it in a society where women are technically not allowed to be artists. So it's very entrepreneurial, and you learn about a lot of old historical artistic techniques. Definitely recommend this one. And another one that also has art in it, but also writing, and really goes into specifically the industry of manga making, is Bakuman. And this one also is fantastic, especially in terms of entrepreneurship, following your passion. And it really is just amazing. Like I said, it goes into a lot of the manga industry in Japan, the way a manga is made, how it has to first go through an editor, and it's really crazy. And even down to like how it gets adapted into an anime and stuff. It's extremely informative. I definitely recommend this one. But, you know, I really do stress the entrepreneurial aspects of these because I really do think it is important. I do think that not a lot of manga or even media in general, like in any type of format, really goes into this. I believe in it so much that my number one pick is specifically about that, and it is called Investor Z. Do not be fooled by the name of Investor Z because yes, it's about stocks, but man, the stuff that it teaches you is fucking crazy. It goes into the history of money. It goes into actual historical examples, the way Stanford made money with the railroads and hotels during the gold rush. It goes into real estate, and regarding stocks, it also goes into foreign exchange. It goes into penny stocks. I mean, literally, it teaches you about virtual stock trading, which is essentially apps that you can download on the store, and you can trade paper money, which is essentially not real money, but you can actually invest in real stocks and see how you would do if you were to actually trade. And I mean, it goes into like life insurance, it goes into businesses, how small businesses operate, how big corporations operate, how to find a job and what are the different strategies you can take. It's like, it's crazy, dude. Like, it's literally crazy. It also goes into startups, programming, it goes into biomedical research, it goes into base research. It's fucking crazy. And I think one of the more important things that it goes into, which really took this manga to the next level for me, is stuff regarding the mindset. There's actually a lot of examples in this manga with that, but my favorite one is one where this guy in a startup is testing one of the kids, because it revolves around middle schoolers, but he tests one of the kids that, like, hey, we're gonna leave you here and you're gonna have to find your way back. The kid is like, you know, fumbling around. He has to figure out a way. Like, he's in the middle of nowhere and he's forced to ask people for help. At first he was embarrassed. He didn't want to go talk to anybody, and eventually he's like, fuck it, I have to do it. And that was the lesson for him. And you know, it is true, getting over that fear of acting and even talking to people is really going to hold you back in the real world. And that's what I love about this manga, is that it not only brings clarity to a lot of this stuff that feels like it's unlearnable and unreachable, stuff regarding business and making money, but it really teaches you stuff that you need to learn and you need to know to make it in the real world. Like I said, this is one that really actually did impact me, because I mean, around the time that I read this was like 2015. It's on the Crunchyroll app for manga, and I didn't have a job, I wasn't doing anything, and I remember these walls being broken down regarding these subjects, and suddenly I was looking into stocks, I was reading, you know, The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. I was getting really into this stuff, and eventually I did end up in entrepreneurship, and I was doing e-commerce, and I'm still doing that to this very day. And big push was Investor Z. And you know, as far as the plot goes, to be honest with you, it's not the best. It doesn't matter, because what you learn is stuff that is just so insanely valuable. And I feel like every school, in honestly middle school, should be having this as required reading, to be honest with you, because it's like stuff that we don't learn or get taught, and it's stuff that people should know and should learn about. A lot of it is more catered to the Japanese economy, which is extremely similar to the US economy, but there's a lot of stuff regarding mindsets and attitudes, which I think is valuable to anybody in any country. But yeah, guys, that is the list. I try to cover as many different topics as I could, but these are the ones that I have delved into and I have found extremely valuable. Take your pick. My personal top recommendations are Investor Z, Blue Period, and Team Medical Dragon. These are all well executed, extremely informative, and ones I think will bring a lot of value in your life. Maybe not so much Team Medical Dragon, but still, it's that fucking good that I'm like, I have to recommend that in my top 3 recommendations. Obviously, I haven't read everything that's out there, so if you know a manga that you learned something and that, you know, even changed your life in a small way, let me know in the comments. I'm super into these type of manga, and I'm always, I just love getting into new stuff. Whatever you do, at the very minimum, go check out Investor Z. If you have Crunchyroll, go to the Crunchyroll manga app and read it. I love Investor Z, man. I wish they can print this and bring it out here, but I mean, I don't know how well they would do in the English audience. Nevertheless, I hope you guys enjoyed the list. I hope I didn't ramble too much with Investor Z specifically. If you enjoy learning, stay tuned for some upcoming videos that are going to be educational, specifically language learning. I'm going to show you guys how I use manga to practice 3 languages, essentially. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and if you haven't already, definitely consider subscribing. Appreciate you guys watching the video. I will see you in the next one. Peace.